You ever see somebody take a step that made a whole room go silent on a fancy move? Not even a smooth one, but something about it just makes everybody stop? Yeah, well, this story starts with a kid whose feet never wanted to cooperate and a waitress who, maybe for the first time in years, decided following might be braver than leading. The Bellamy Room on a Friday night was all low lights, and the kind of live jazz that made even the tiredest city folks remember how to smilly a place where you could pretend the world outside had slowed down, just for a little while. There wasn't a real dance floor, just a strip of polished wood between the tables, but if you had enough nerve, you could get up and sway in front of strangers. At table 5, a boy sat 8 years old, skinny, serious, slumped just enough to look like he wanted to disappear. Jamie Voss. Most of the time, his legs wouldn't listen to him. It was something called Donia Doctor's words that meant nothing came easy, every step in negotiation between his mind and muscles that always wanted to do their own thing. His dad, Harlan, sat across from him, this big-deal real estate guy with a stare so steady you'd think nothing in the world could rattle him. He loved Jamie, but it was the kind of love that showed up as a shadow always hovering, always guarding, rarely smiling. They didn't go out much, and when they did, it was always somewhere Harlan could keep the world at arm's length. Tonight, he only agreed because the booths were hidden, the staff discreet, and the lights forgiving. But Jamie, he barely touched his dinner. All his attention was on this waitress weaving through tables with a tray balanced like it was a dance move she'd practiced 1,000 times. Clara, name tag said. She used to be somebody on stage, her feet knowing how to tell a story before a torn ligament ended that. Now she moved quiet, careful, hiding a rhythm in her walk nobody else saw. When Clara set a fresh lemonade on Jamie's table, he stared down at her shoes and mumbled, "Do you still dance?" She crouched so he wouldn't have to look up. Only when someone dares to lead, she whispered, like it was a secret meant just for him. And you know what? That's when everything shifted tiny, invisible, but real. Jamie's hands clenched the sea that didn't plan it. He just stood up. His knees wobbled, his feet shuffled, but he stood, one uncertain arm raised in invitation. He wasn't asking. He wasn't commanding. Just offering. Clara glanced around every eye half-turned, the music a soft waltz in the background. Then she put down her tray, wiped her hands, and let his hand find hers. The thing is, when Jamie took that first step left foot dragging, shoulders stiff, the whole room held its breath. No one announced it, no spotlight swung, but all the little noises dulled. Clara let Jamie lead, not fixing his offbeat rhythm, not correcting him, just falling into his pace. And right there, you could feel it, something was happening, something you couldn't name. A couple near the center stopped dancing. The pianist slowed the tune. Even the waiters paused mid-pour. Jamie stumbled, a laugh bubbled out from somewhere awkward, not cruel, just the kind of thing that makes you want to crawl away. But Clara didn't let go. She absorbed his stagger, didn't flinch, just kept her eyes on him, letting him believe he was in charge. Other kids at a nearby table watched, wide-eyed, not pointing at how Jamie walked funny, but how Clara held his hand so careful, like it was treasure. Jamie made it a few more steps and glanced up. "Is it okay?" He whispered, breath shaky. "It's perfect," she said, and you could tell she meant it. They didn't go far. 5 steps, maybe 6. Each one a tiny revolution, awkward, imperfect, but around them, people melted back into their seats, but nobody quite looked away. Jamie's dad had stepped out to take a work call, walked back in, and stopped cold. Jamie was out there, in front of everybody, not just standing, but moving. And beside him, the waitress was letting him lead. Harlan's first instinct was to rush in, shield his kid, stop the embarrassment before it started, but he didn't. Something about the quiet courage in the scene glued his feet to the floor. He watched as Jamie took another slow, careful step, the whole place for Zeno one mocking, just watching, waiting. Clara whispered, "Keep going, I'm still here," and Jamie's foot landed steady. For the first time, Harlan realized his boy was leading, not following. The silence wasn't awkward, it was sacred. Harlan's phone, still glowing in his hand, might as well have been a million miles away. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, just stood there as his son danced, and the world didn't fall apart. The drive home was silent, not heavy, just thick with all the things neither of them knew how to say. Jamie finally spoke soft, no drama. I don't think I need you to hold my hand so much anymore. Harlan was stunned, and all Jamie said was, I know I can still fall, but I think I can lead, too, if someone lets me. For Harlan, a man used to controlling everything, it was a revelation. Maybe too late, maybe just in time. The next morning, Harlan went back to the Bellamy room. The place was empty, quiet, just sunlight and shadows. Clara was there, cleaning glasses. Harlan went straight to the point. You weren't afraid he'd fall? She looked at him, steady calm. No, she said. I was afraid no one would follow him. She explained that kids like Jamie get used to being guided, but rarely do they get to lead even when they want to. Harlan, for the first time, really listened. He found himself later at a community dance at Centera converted firehouse full of kids with braces and walkers, teachers and parents letting them stumble, regain, move on their own. Clara was showing a kid how to shift his weight when he fell. She let him stand back up. Harlan asked, How do I stop holding my son back? And Clara just said, Step where he steps, not where you think he should go. At the spring festival, Jamie stood alone on Stagino music. No routine, just moving his own way, awkward and determined. One by one, people in the audience got up, not to lead, but to follow. By the time Jamie finished, a third of the room was on their feet, moving, awkward, but with him. No applause, no big finish, just a community learning to let go, to trust, to follow. That's the twist. Sometimes the greatest act of love isn't holding on, but letting go enough for someone to lead you, even if they're not strong or graceful or certain. Sometimes we guide, thinking we're protecting, but what if the bravest thing is to follow? Maybe leadership doesn't always look like confidence. Sometimes it looks like Jamie, shaky, determined, not perfect. And sometimes it looks like Clara, willing to let go of control, to trust a kid who stumbles. You ever follow someone you thought was too weak to lead, only to realize they changed you? If this story hit you anywhere in the chest, if you ever needed to let go, or wish someone would follow you, for once tell us below. What's the difference between guiding and holding back? When does protecting become a cage? Drop your take in the comments, hit like, and share if you've ever been led by someone everyone else overlooked. Justice Reloaded. Sometimes the real dance starts when you stop trying to control the music